have always liked good deals and never expected one to change my life so much. One day, I saw a listing on Facebook Marketplace for a high-end leather couch at a very low price. I thought, this is my chance. I called the seller right away, and we agreed to meet at his house. I was excited and a bit nervous, not knowing what to expect. When I arrived, the seller was a middle-aged man who lived alone in a small, cluttered house. The place was full of old furniture and piles of newspapers. My friend Mark came with me to help move the couch. As we stepped inside his driveway, a strong, awful smell hit us. I tried to ignore it, thinking it might be just a pet odor. But the smell grew worse the closer we got to the house. The seller greeted us with an uneasy smile. When we mentioned the smell, he laughed awkwardly and said it was just his dog having an accident. I felt something was off, but I did not want to lose a good deal. We carefully lifted the couch and loaded it onto our truck. The ride home was silent except for the strange odor that lingered in the air, making everything feel heavy and wrong. Later that day, I began to notice little things about the couch. When I sat on it, the cushions felt uneven, as if something was hidden inside. I looked closer and saw dark stains beneath the fabric. A shiver went down my spine, but I convinced myself that it was nothing more than a bad patch of dirt. I tried to brush it off, but a nagging feeling stayed with me. That night, curiosity got the best of me. I grabbed a pair of scissors and decided to check the lining of the couch. My hands were shaking as I carefully cut a small slit under one of the cushions. What I found made my heart stop. Small, brittle bones mixed with clumps of old, matted hair were tangled inside. The smell turned even stronger, like something rotten was hidden deep within. I stood frozen, unable to move, as the truth sank in. I called the police right away. When they arrived, I explained everything and showed them what I had discovered. The officers took the couch as evidence and promised to look into the matter. I felt scared and confused. I had no idea what I had gotten myself into, and the images of those bones haunted my thoughts as I lay in bed that night. The days that followed were filled with strange happenings. I began hearing soft footsteps in the hall late at night, even though I lived alone. Sometimes I thought I saw a shadow move across the wall when no one was there. I would sit in my living room, remembering the smell and the bones, and feel an uneasy chill run through me. The experience made me distrust simple things, like buying used items. A week later, I watched a local news report that made my blood run cold. The report said that the seller of the couch had been arrested for a serious crime. They said that the couch had once belonged to a missing woman, and that the seller was a suspect in her disappearance. I could not believe what I was hearing. All the odd signs and the strange smell now made terrible sense. Since that day, I have been unable to shake the feeling of dread. Every time I pass by a Facebook ad or see a used piece of furniture, I remember that horrible day. I still wonder about the missing woman, and how my bargain almost brought something evil into my home. I know I was lucky to call the police and stop the nightmare from growing any worse. Now, I share my story as a warning. I learned that sometimes, a deal that looks too good to be true really is too good to be true. I still feel a chill whenever I think back to that day. The smell, the bones, the strange sounds at night. I do not know if all the horror was real or just a series of bad luck, but I will never forget what happened. And I will always be careful when a good deal comes my way. I still wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, thinking of that horrible day. I cannot forget the smell or the sight of those bones. Every shadow in my home makes me wonder if the past is still watching me. Last summer, I had one of the strangest experiences of my life. I was searching for gym equipment on Facebook Marketplace when I came across a full gym set for a price that was too good to be true. I had been saving money for new weights and felt lucky to find such a deal. I quickly contacted the seller and arranged to meet him at his garage so I could test the equipment before buying it. When I arrived, the man greeted me with a big smile. He was very friendly and looked like he spent a lot of time working out himself. The garage was small but tidy, with rows of weights, benches, and other gym gear neatly arranged on the walls. I was impressed by how well kept it was. We talked about lifting and training, and his easy manner put me at ease. I started to test the equipment, lifting weights and checking each piece carefully. As I lifted, I noticed the atmosphere in the garage change. The man's smile did not reach his eyes, and he watched me a bit too closely. At first, I thought nothing of it, but then I realized the door had slowly swung shut behind me. I turned around and saw that the door was locked. My heart began to race. I told myself to stay calm and tried to continue as if nothing was wrong. After a few moments, the man spoke in a soft, almost casual tone. He said, "Guys like you have tested my equipment before, but they never left." I froze. Those words hit me like a punch. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. I knew something was very wrong, but I kept my voice steady. I complimented his gym, asked him for some training tips, and pretended to be interested in his advice. Inside, I was filled with fear and confusion. I was trapped, and I did not know what he meant by his words. Every minute that passed felt like an hour. I watched him closely, looking for any sign that he might let me go. He kept talking about past buyers and how they had vanished without a trace. His tone was calm, almost as if he was proud of what he did. I tried to steer the conversation away from those dark remarks, but the tension in the room was thick. I knew I had to think of a way out, but I felt helpless. I decided to play along. I told him that I would return later with the cash and that I needed time to think about the deal. I said I appreciated his time and that his gym was really impressive. He looked at me with a long, hard stare before he nodded and unlocked the door. The moment it opened, I rushed out, my mind racing with terror. I drove away as fast as I could, not daring to look back at that place. After that day, I could not shake the fear that had taken hold of me. I stopped going to Facebook Marketplace and even avoided talking about the incident with friends. I would lie awake at night, replaying the scene in my head. The locked door, his cold smile, and those haunting words. I wondered if I had been lucky enough to escape, or if I had narrowly missed something far worse. I could not get the image of that man from my mind. A week later, I was walking home from the gym when I noticed a missing person poster on a telephone pole. I stopped in my tracks as I saw the poster. The picture showed a man with a build and face that was very similar to the seller from the garage. The photo was blurry, but I could see his strange smile. My stomach dropped as I stared at the poster, realizing that the man who sold me that gym set had disappeared, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. I still do not know what really happened that day in the garage. I am left with more questions than answers. I share this story because I want others to be careful. A deal that seems too good can hide dark secrets, and sometimes the truth is scarier than anything you can imagine. I still feel a chill when I think of that locked door and his eerie smile, and I know that I will never forget what happened. I hope you never face such a moment, and always trust your gut when something feels wrong. I still wonder if I escaped that fate, or if that door will open one day to let anything in. I leave the details unanswered because I am afraid to look back. One crisp autumn afternoon, I was browsing Facebook Marketplace, looking for something unique for a friend's wedding. I wanted a special wedding dress that would make the day feel even more magical. Then I saw it, a beautiful, vintage wedding dress offered at an unbelievably low price. The ad said that the seller wanted to let go of old memories. I felt a mix of excitement and curiosity, so I quickly arranged to meet her. I arrived at a modest house on a quiet street on the outskirts of town. The place looked old but cared for, with a small garden in front and a worn porch. A quiet woman greeted me with a soft smile. The dress hung in a plain living room, on a simple rack. It was delicate with a faded lace pattern and had an air of lost beauty. The woman spoke softly about letting go of the past, saying that the dress carried memories she wished to leave behind. I listened, and though something in her tone made me uneasy, I took the dress, thinking it was a rare find. After I got home, I carefully unpacked the dress in my small apartment. As I laid it out, I noticed dark red stains near the bottom. At first I thought maybe I had spilled some wine while trying it on, but the marks were too distinct and deep for a simple spill. I held the fabric close and caught a faint, unsettling smell. It wasn't the smell of wine. It was something heavy, almost like a metallic scent that I couldn't place. Worried, I decided to take the dress to a nearby dry cleaner the next day. The man at the counter examined the dress closely, his face growing serious. In a quiet voice, he told me he could not clean it because it smelled too much like death. His words chilled me. I left the store with the dress still in my arms, my mind racing with fear and confusion. That night, I lay awake in my dim room thinking about what had happened. I couldn't shake the feeling that the dress was more than just an old garment. I kept thinking about the seller's soft voice and her talk of old memories. My heart pounded as I wondered what those memories could be. With trembling hands, I opened my laptop and typed in her name. What I found made me freeze. A news article appeared from years ago. It reported that a woman with the same name had been arrested for poisoning her husband at their wedding. According to the article, her husband had suddenly fallen ill and died. The report said his blood had splattered onto her dress during the chaos, leaving clear evidence behind. I stared at the screen in shock. The woman I met looked far too young to have been part of such a terrible event. I felt like I had stepped into a nightmare. I tried to understand what I had read. Questions swirled in my mind. Had I been tricked into taking a dress stained with something horrible? Was the quiet woman I met really the same person from the news article? Or was there another truth hidden behind her gentle smile? I could not sleep that night. Every creak of my apartment and every whisper of wind outside made me think of that dreadful wedding. The dress lay hidden in a box under my bed, a constant reminder of something I could not explain. In the days that followed, I avoided looking at the dress. I stopped visiting Facebook Marketplace altogether, too scared to come across another too-good-to-be-true deal. Yet the image of that dress and the sound of her soft voice haunted me. I began to wonder if I had unwittingly brought home a cursed object, a relic stained with a past I wished I never knew. My thoughts were troubled, and I felt deep regret for ever picking it up. I even noticed strange sounds around my apartment at night. Sometimes I heard a soft rustle near the box where the dress was stored. Once, I thought I saw a shadow move quickly in the corner of my eye. I told myself it was just my imagination, fueled by fear and that terrible story. Still, I could not shake the feeling that I had brought something dark into my home. To this day, I do not know what happened with that dress or the quiet woman who sold it. I have never seen her again. And the old news article is the only clue I have. I often wonder if I made a huge mistake that day. I share this story so you will be careful with deals that seem too good to be true. Please heed.